A very warm welcome to everybody else on the other side of the screen. Thank you for the immense participation on this Smart Protein webinar powered by Biotecnika and the Good Food Institute and initiated by the Mumbai Smart Protein Project. I'm Adit Aggarwal, the president at MSPP and a fourth-year chemical engineering undergrad at IIT Bombay. I'll walk you through this final session on our careers in alternate proteins, along with two personalities who will be joining us, Mrs. Chandana Tekate, a scientist from GFI India, and Mr. Jay Gupta, who's a food innovator. Towards the end, we also have a special announcement. So stay tuned and keep the questions pouring in. So now that we have enough background on smart proteins or alt proteins as we call it through our previous webinars, the most important question lies in how to get the flavor of this industry, which is booming at a faster pace than ever. So starting off the discussion, this slide is quite personal for me because this is why I chose to associate with GFI and I got a chance to become the president. Smart proteins, or in this slide as we call it, the interdisciplinary proteins, is a area which encompasses a lot of backgrounds and brings a lot of people together, be it from science, the health sciences, agricultural, environmental, nutritional science. From technology, we have the biotech people. As me myself as a chemical engineer, we also have and we want data scientists to be able to get success. We have from the business department, we have finance people who will take care of the investments in this domain. We have entrepreneurs who are basically the problem solvers and will take this whole journey forward. And in culinary arts, we also have people who will save the taste so that the alternative food products are quite resemble the meat products and the natural plant-based products. And on the other hand, we have the policymakers, which comprises of the government, the health experts who will determine these policies, and also the non-profits, as we have GFI with us. Moving on to the next slide. So these are some numbers to get you started. There are around 113 startups in India, and there are more than 100 plus backing companies, including the incubators like IKP, Sign, and many of these startups you have already been introduced to through our webinars. And through a report by GFI, there's a possibility of 4 lakh plus jobs to be created until 2030 in India due to the alternate protein space. On a global level, GFI is managing 59 plus APP chapters, which itself shows a huge mark. And there are some other numbers to get you going with, like the CAGR of market size in India is going to be go with 5.86%, and the global investment in 2023 was estimated to be $2.9 billion. And one important thing is that these big players, which you can see in the screen, are already into this space, and this itself says a huge thing about alternate proteins. So with this background, I would like to call upon our first guest for the evening, Mrs. Chandana Tekate. She is a science and technology specialist at Good Food Institute and has been a research scientist at University of California. She pursued a master's at the renowned University of Sheffield, England. With a prowess and profound knowledge in this field, she has been guiding and being the foundational light for the GFI India chapters. So without any further ado, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Adit. Very kind words. I'm not sure if I'm deserving of all of them, but thank you. It's a very proud moment for GFI India and GFI globally to see how beautifully you have organized this webinar series with Biotecnika. So, firstly, I'd like to congratulate your team and also thank Biotecnika for hosting this beautiful webinar series on your platform. We're very grateful for the audience you've brought in, and I'm very excited to talk about the career opportunities our audience can potentially pursue in the alt protein, in the smart protein sector, and also go into where the opportunities lie, and also how you can put, if you're not directly involved in the sector yet, we can help you understand how you can be more involved. So I'm going to start my presentation now. So I hope you're able to see my screen. So I'm not going to go too much into the into the technical aspects of alt proteins, I would probably just show you a very overview of what's been discussed over the last 3 weeks, just a little brief, and we can go into the career paths that students can take. And this can include folks from the technical roles or non-technical roles, students who are at the entry level, or even with, if there are professionals in the audience with decades of experience in adjacent sectors, and if you're looking to enter the all protein sector, we have a few resources which we hope can help you. So moving on, I'm just gonna, if you're not familiar with GFI India and the global network of institutes called Good Food Institute, just a quick recap. I'm sure you've heard this before, but for those of you who may not know, we are a non-profit think tank that's exclusively working to make sure that our food systems can be sustainable and efficient to supply to the growing population and the protein needs of the world. So we are based out of these regions in across the globe, and if you need any more resources beyond what's been shared in the webinar series in the last 3 weeks, I encourage you to please go to our website and get in touch with us, or the Mumbai Smart Protein Project, or the Delhi Smart Protein Project, or the Chennai Smart Protein Project. So we have exclusive student groups working in these cities to make sure alternative proteins, or smart proteins as we call it in India, becomes more mainstream. So just to recap again, why our approach is, number one, to make sure that our challenge is not something that just comes to us 20 years later when we're helpless, but we're trying to accelerate solutions right from today. So we want to make sure that we will be ready with a solution when the crisis hits us. So we have something called as a theory of change, where we hope that we will be able to make alternatives to animal proteins which taste the same and cost the same or less. So that way the global population won't feel like they're sacrificing anything. It's just a simple switch. So, and we know what the different types of alternative proteins are, or smart proteins are. So your alternatives to meat, dairy, and eggs can come from either plant sources, or the ingredients can come from fermentation techniques, or what is most fascinating and what you heard about just last week is cultivated meat or cultivated seafood, which is where most of the biotechnology sector is booming, where you're trying to create animal meat, muscle cells, through biopsies and bioreactor cultures. So I'm not going to go into the science of this. You've all heard about this. And of course, if you need to know more, please go to the GFI websites, and we have plenty of resources talking about this. And when we talk about plant-based fermentation and cultivated meat, first thing I want our future all protein career pathways to think is, they're not distinct sectors. They're not three separate platforms. They work very interdisciplinarily. So you are able to use each of these ingredients from the various technologies to create the end product. So I'm not sure if many of you in the audience have heard about this, but there's something called as the Impossible Burger that came out in the US many years ago. So people generally think that the Impossible Burger, which is a plant-based alternative to beef, so it's essentially a beef burger, but it's made from plant sources. But it's not an exclusively plant-based item. You'd be surprised to know that it has a very critical ingredient called as leg hemoglobin, which is produced by fermentation technology. So there is a classic example of where a plant-based category and the fermentation category interact with each other. So this leg hemoglobin that's produced by precision fermentation is used with the plant-based ingredients to make sure it gives that bloody umami sort of experience when you eat the burger. So this is very common, that this interplay between the various categories to create an end product. So if you're a food technologist or if you're a biotechnologist, it's very likely that you're going to be closely working with these other sectors and have a lot of cross collaboration, which is why I'm showing you this slide, to make sure that you know and you understand about the various interplay between these sectors. And that said, I know, and I'm guessing here once more, that maybe many of you in the audience are from a science and tech background. So if you're looking for jobs in the science and technology domain, then this particular part of the value chain is where you'll mainly be looking for. So your skills can help process optimization, end product formulation, or ingredient identification across the supply chain. So, and all of these are powered by R&D. So if you're a budding scientist in the food tech or the biotech sector or the chem engineering sector or the bioprocess engineering sector, it's most likely that your R&D, your PhD work, your tech innovation is going to supply these parts of the value chain. So moving on, if you are more of an entrepreneur with a tech innovation background, and you want to zoom out and see the entire ecosystem, you have plenty of roles. If science is not your thing and engineering is not your thing, there is still a lot of roles across the value chain which you can play in business policy. Adit was just talking about this in the introduction, that there are so many available career pathways in the all protein sector that's beyond science and technology that you can still explore. And of course, there are also think tanks and non-profits like us, like GFI India, or GFI globally, where you can help the industry. You can be an industry enabler essentially, and help the labor force, the business services, and essentially even regulatory for that matter, to ensure that food safety is ensured in a food sector, in the growing industry. So this is just to give you a snapshot of what's really out there in terms of career. And we can go into the technical backgrounds. So for example, if I want to become a regulatory specialist in to ensure food safety of all protein ingredients, what's the pathway you can take? So we have resources like this built on our website, so you can explore this in the coming months when we launch it. But for now, I can give you some snippets about what should I study in order to pursue a career in all proteins. Like I know this is an emerging tech field, so there's not a lot of structured courses already out there which will make you a well-rounded all protein technician. But there are certain pathways that you can take which you will end up in a very fulfilling career. So I'll start by probably looking at these jobs across many sectors. Like I said, it doesn't have to just be R&D with a PhD. You can also be in the government or the non-profit agency side. So if you're in academia, you're a scientist, it's a familiar pathway. We all know about how research, R&D, and PhD and postdoc and investigator level goes. So that is I'm not going to go too much into that. But in industry, it's slightly different in the all protein industry. It's more B2C, B2B type companies where, like I said, Impossible Burger or Beyond Meat. So these are all, they may have more nuances when it comes to ingredient production and design processing rather than R&D and pure tech. So there are options, of course. If you're an entrepreneurial spirit person, you can always become a startup. In India, R&D and innovation is much needed. So that is always something you can peek into. And of course, on the other end of the spectrum, you have you can have food companies, even conventional meat companies, companies in biotech, biopharma. All of these are offering roles which the background education will help you eventually become an entrepreneur in the all protein sector. So there are traditional paths that you can take to become an entrepreneur or an innovation specialist. So in my case, for example, I was a pure tissue engineering background. I'm a stem cell biologist with tissue engineering background. I was building organ-on-chip models, but I eventually felt that maybe I should be applying my tech expertise in a more sustainability oriented role, which is what brought me to this kind of a role where I have policymaker interaction. I also have government interaction, and working with a non-profit like this, I'm able to support the ecosystem at large. So it's not just using, a lab to work on my technical expertise, but also using my scientific knowledge to help regulatory experts, to help governments and policymakers understand the tech better. So it's important, and I'm also able to work with university students, like the Mumbai Smart Protein Project. I'm able to work with faculty members, degree programs, make sure that there is general awareness about the all protein sector and careers available in the all protein sector. So if you are someone who is very much into climate health, animal welfare, and it happens to overlap with science as a passion, then the whole all protein sector is meant for you. So I would highly encourage people to enter the sector with that mindset. And moving on, I'll probably go into the disciplines where most of the all protein science technology is needed. I understand that this probably has a very a tech crowd rather than social sciences or regulatory crowd. So I'm going to stick to what kinds of technology, engineering, BSc, BTech, MSc courses that you may need to take to have a career in the all protein sector. So if you've narrowed down to science and engineering, then these listed here are some of the technical expertise that is needed by the industry. So it's not an exhaustive list, I'm going to be honest there, but it'll hopefully give you an idea of how these production platforms like plant-based or fermentation technology or cultivated meat technology needs the basic science skill set you'll have from biotechnology, mol bio, food science and engineering, food technology, plant biotechnology, tissue engineering, which is what I'm from. You wouldn't be surprised if I said mechanical and chemical engineering is probably like the bolt and key which holds everything together for the all protein sector. And of course, with the rise of AI and computational biology tech, that is another huge sector which will change the way all proteins work for the rest of the decade at least. So that said, I think I would probably highlight food science, meat science, agricultural sciences, and biotechnology and synthetic biology as probably the two most key disciplines which you will have direct relation to all protein application. So moving on, I think right now there is a high demand for a combination of scientific expertise and entrepreneurial spirit. So like I said, there is a lot of R&D happening at universities and innovation ecosystems, but India especially needs more entrepreneurship, and that spirit needs to rise amongst youngsters like you. So if you're a scientist and you're interested in innovation and entrepreneurship, then all protein sector is probably your biggest calling at the moment, with a lot of public government investment coming in, private investment coming in. This is the ideal time to be thinking about a sector such as this, an emerging sector such as this. So I think, like I just said, it's an exciting time for a career in all proteins. You can find support from people like us in the ecosystem. Please reach out to us if you have an idea in your mind, you want to set up a company, you want to find investors, please let us know if we can help in any way. If you have technical questions about the sciences you're involved in, we have a science and technology team, which is what I'm part of, and we can help you solve those questions and answer any doubts you may have in your mind. And think about the kind of positive impact you're going to have across so many cause areas when you enter the all protein sector, and that itself is enough motivation for many. And of course, you'll be involved in the most cutting edge technology, the most emerging exciting areas of science. And you'll of course you won't be stuck to one. So like I said, there'll be mechanical engineers working with chemical engineers and food scientists to make a mature product. So it's going to be a very exciting intersection of many disciplines, which is something to consider early on in your career if that excites you. So I think I've probably given you a lot of tips and resources so far on what to look at. I don't want to go too much into the details of what sort of pathways, individual pathways you need to take. I highly encourage you explore the GFI website for such resources. I'll probably give you like a pattern, like a stepwise goal on how you can train yourself if you are interested in the all protein career pathway. You can number one, of course, personally think about what motivates you and build yourself a learning plan. Try to do your own research, do some reading, go to reliable sources of information, like I said, the GFI website, for instance. Go through upcoming articles published in Google Scholar, and keep yourself up to date on where the sector is. And of course, it's important that you attend workshops and conferences like this one is a great example. So you're able to get direct information, direct reliable information from people like from experts like us, so you know where the science and the technology is currently at. And when you attend these conferences and workshops, automatically you'll find collaborators and you'll be able to learn from each other. And of course, it's important that you join a network, like how the Mumbai Smart Protein Project as a group of students are able to influence and build awareness about the sector in their campuses or in this community, for example. You should probably be aiming to do something similar, where you join a network or help create a network in this emerging field, and make sure there is enough enough enthusiasm and interest to be able to keep these resources up to date and stay up to date. So I think these are some of the immediate resources that I can point you to get the most up to date information. So GFI annually publishes state of the industry reports. That's even where I go to for some quick numbers and stats. So commercial landscape, R&D landscape, investment landscape, regulatory developments, policy developments, scientific progress, everything is covered in the state of the industry report. So I highly recommend reading this as a good starting point. And of course, we have on the GFI website a student resource guide. So that will help you as a newcomer to the field understand the stepwise goals on where to go and get the right mentorship that you need. And of course, if you are entirely new to the field, I would highly recommend start it right away. Even tomorrow, I would recommend to take the mass open access online course that we have on the GFI website. It's called the Protein Transition. It has a super in-depth scientific view of where the all protein sector is currently at. So it's a 5-part series. Highly recommend doing it. We try very hard to keep the things up to date, so we don't miss out on any details. So it's a must do course if you're interested in the sector, to satisfy your professional curiosity, your scientific curiosity. Please don't miss the Protein Transition MOOC, the open access online course. And of course, we also have a database of a lot of learning opportunities. So on the right here is the course database. We have a curriculum repository where if you really want to dig into something specific, like, hey, what are the scaffolding biomaterials that are used in cultivated meat, what kind of tissue engineering goes on in cultivated meat. So if you're very curious in certain very particular parts of the all protein sector, we have a database full of curriculum that you can explore. So please keep in touch with these kinds of learning materials, so you're up to date on the ecosystem. And I think there are also, if you go into the vocation hub of the GFI website, we have a lot of, we have a portal full of interviews we've had with researchers, with entrepreneurs in the sector. So you can learn directly from these people through their interviews on how they have made it through the career and how they've come this far. So there's a lot you can explore through these resources. So highly recommend going through these websites. And like I said, join the smart protein community. So if you're part of a university program or on campus doing R&D, start an all protein project chapter, a smart protein project chapter on your campus. So once you become an SPP chapter, you will be connected to 50 other chapters across the globe. So the Mumbai Smart Protein Project can go more into this. They will really, this kind of a global community will help you understand, it'll give you a worldwide snapshot of where the career path for so many different entrepreneurs, scientists, subject matter experts, where everything is. So I would highly recommend being a part of a community like that. If not, at least join the GF Ideas community. So that is where you get connected through LinkedIn and other such social media platforms, where you can network with a lot of folks working in the sector, whether it's entrepreneurs or scientists. So these are the two ways you should really be connected with a global community of experts. And this is some other resources I thought might be helpful. So if you're looking for a job, if you're already graduated and looking for jobs, so these are some of the websites where you can find sustainability oriented careers. So for example, I got this job through the 80,000 hours website. So 80,000 hours is a very interesting term. You might be wondering why that number. So 80,000 hours defines the number of hours an average person has in their career. So if you work 40 hours a week over a period of your decades of worth career, you will have about 80,000 hours in your life to devote to a career. So it's important that you do something that you enjoy and that you're passionate about. So I felt like I needed a career change after doing R&D for about 12 years. So I went on 80,000 hours and I found a mission aligned job. So and animal advocacy is another one site where you are able to find jobs which really align with your personal role ethics or so on. And of course, there's also Talist, which connects candidates with companies, and they focus on exclusively on the all protein space. So some names to keep in mind if you're looking for a job. And of course, keep in touch with the Mumbai Smart Protein Project through LinkedIn or other communities. So because we constantly post about available jobs, even through our social media platforms. So I think with that, I'm going to end. And of course, please visit our website, GFI India website and GFI global website to gain more such resources. And I'm happy to answer any questions there might be.
Wow, that was such an insightful talk. It encompassed all the things that everybody wanted, and I can see it had cleared a lot of questions. I only got a couple of questions on the chat. Is that what exactly skill sets and educational requirements will be for the following roles in alternate protein sector? So they have mentioned 4 domains, but we can focus on the science and technology part.
Yeah. So
Which
like I said, I think you're mostly depending on which vertical of all proteins you want to go into. It's going to be a mix of food science, food technology, biotechnology, synthetic biology, chemical engineering, and of course, if you are someone into computational biology, then that's a huge part of the entire sector. So There is no one course, unfortunately, where everything about all proteins is covered. No, I mean the GFI open access course is there, but if you want to do a master's or a biotech type or a BTech type program, there is not one all protein course. You will have to learn a little from all these different backgrounds and amalgamate into an all protein expert. So since it's an emerging field, that's expected. But yeah, so essentially the short answer is you will have to be a mix of a biotechnologist, a chemical engineer, and a food technologist to be fit for a career in all proteins.
Right, sure. Definitely, that must answer the question. And I guess we can wait for a couple of more questions in the chat the attendees want to ask. Let me just can wait for a couple of minutes, maybe.
If nothing pops to mind right now, it's totally fine. You can reach out to me or Amrita, who presented at the very first webinar series here. And we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, particular to careers in all proteins and smart proteins.
Sure. So I guess with that, I would really like to give a big thank you for dedicating time out of your busy schedule and imparting knowledge to our students, researchers, and even industry professionals who have joined us. And for myself as a chemical engineer, I would like to have to be the bold of this industry and really looking forward to motivate more people with your guidance and mentorship.
Yes, once again, thank you so much to the Mumbai Smart Protein Project and Biotecnika for hosting this. I hope this has been helpful for the many students and professionals out there, and sparked an idea or interest to work towards sustainability and creating a circular bioeconomy as the government of India is currently pushing for. So thank you once again.
Thank you, Chandra. Thank